Well, certainly the image that comes to mind most frequently is Jim Dore pulling in that game-winning catch from Dan Kalachi, running down the sideline. I mean, I remember that like it was yesterday.
The one that was kind of profound, that was fun, was the state football championship. So much so that I wrote a book about it. Although the book wasn't about football so much. It was about the way that a group of kind of smart alecky young know-it-alls kind of came together, with, despite all of our differences, despite all the trauma and difficulties in the world at the time, and we did something that was meaningful to us. I sort of at the time I thought, well, this is silly. It's a game, and there are more important things in life. But as with the season progressed, I thought, this is pretty special. And like our teammates, we fully committed to it, and had, oh my gosh, so many lucky bounces of the ball, and to prevail. That was a great experience. And the one thing, as I was preparing and researching the book, I said, I'm ending the book with this. I was sitting down in Errol Patterson's kitchen, and his wife Nancy sitting next to him. They'd, at the time, I think, been married almost 30 years. And Errol and Tim Kellett, they played next to each other. Errol was the star end, and Tim was the offensive tackle. And as the seconds were ticking off the clock at Faurot Field in Columbia, and we knew we were going to win the game against Kansas City Center. And then when it got to 0, the two just kind of embraced. And Errol said, it was the best hug I ever had. And I looked at Nancy, and she looked at Errol, and Errol looked at her, and he just said, she understands. But that's how I'm ending this book. And it was so sweet. And it just culminated all the stuff that was going on, the racial stuff, the protests of Vietnam War, all that stuff. And so to do that and have that, the permanence of, nobody can ever take that away from us, as lucky as we were. I think I mentioned in the book, the basketball team with Steve Walsh and Kevin Cleary and the guys, and the baseball team with Steve as an all-state, they were much better prospects to win a state championship. And yet the bounces went the other way for them and went for us in football. So that was a great memory. It was great to be part of that.
The one thing that has always stuck with me is standing on Faurot Field at the University of Missouri. The clock is expiring. We know at that point in time that we've won this game. And it was almost instinctive or natural to turn and embrace Errol Patterson. We hadn't planned it. We hadn't thought about it. It was not any sort of over the top, pound each other pads or whatever. It was just an embrace or a hug. But I don't think we said anything. I think it was just kind of unspoken, wow, we did this. We really did this. Errol, I was a left tackle. Errol was a left end. We were next to each other from August to November. Didn't have to say much that day. It was just, I think we both, at that moment in time, you just realized that we have really achieved, it was the sense of great satisfaction that we have really achieved something that is really extraordinary. Nobody else has done this. And we did it with a bunch of guys, a group of guys that we really liked and respected. And it was in front of guys, a bigger group of guys that we really liked and really expected. So it was just a moment that I savored. I didn't go, it wasn't exuberant. It wasn't jumping up and down. It was just, this is really neat. And football, it sounds trite, but what football did to me, and I don't remember as well the plays and the teams and the games and all that kind of stuff, but it was a vehicle by which I was able to develop relationships and create a bond with guys that like an Errol Patterson, I could go down the list, Weesey, Twombly, guys that came from all over the metropolitan area, totally different backgrounds than I was. And we accomplished something special.
The most memorable thing that I experienced was the Missouri 4A state championship game, or season, the whole season. And, that was a great time. And I did it with a lot of guys that I'm still in contact with. We started out having lunches with Paul Martell until he passed away. Then we were getting together with Joe Castellano to help him with his book, Bull in the Ring. And now I'm involved in the committee to organize the banquet, the 50th year banquet, anniversary banquet, there you go, for the football team. And that's going to be on the same weekend that we have our reunion.
Yeah, I tried out to get a singing part, and I was immediately notified, no singing part, and you're going to be one of the female actors.
But I was starting to hang around the crowd of John Troy, Jim Dugan. I went for Senior Follies. And Senior Follies, I don't know if there has ever been a funnier one since, with John Troy and everybody's meeting in the rec room and the rifle team shooting from one end. It was, and then he did Edith Ann. And if somebody had recorded that, they could have made it into a movie. It was absolutely hilarious. It's one of the best things I did. It's not sports related, but again, I made a ton of friends at Senior Follies, and Joe Schulte was part of that too. But Senior Follies was absolutely a great experience.
I think one of the more memorable events for me was really our Senior Follies. And, I was lucky enough to get chosen to be a part of the dance course, where we got to dance and sing several songs and things like that. And, it's great. That's really the first time I ever had a chance to do any kind of theatrical performance. I never tried out for any of the plays during our 4 years. But it was actually the first time I had a chance to get up and do any kind of performance in front of people, and kind of doing the jitterbug and Rockette style type, leg kick dances. I had to get through some of that fear of kind of failing and her eyes really on me and watching me. But that was a great experience. I think just the time, the several weeks we used just to rehearse, try on costumes and do things. It was really, to me, really a great kind of a culmination of our 4 years with classmates to be able to do something fun. And it really helped me later on, because when I got into work and really had to do public speaking and some other things, I kind of remembered those days up there in front of the stage and going, okay, this isn't that bad, and you can get through this thing. And I always remembered, even any kind of public speaking, the people I'm talking to have no clue what I'm going to say. So even if I say something wrong, they don't know that. So don't even worry about it.
And then with the Senior Follies, I did think one of your questions was, what do I wish I would have done? And I really enjoyed that. And it's odd to me now when I think about it, with doing the pep rallies and everything else. It never occurred to me to get involved in theater, and I think I would have liked that.
Gosh, it was great. I was Tim Rogers' costume guy. I was helping him make all his changes.
I don't know if this is sober or funny, but you mentioned Destry, and that was actually one of the things that I wanted to mention as well. But one of the things that really stayed in my mind was there's this crazy scene where the sheriff gets shot. And I'm supposed to lay on the stage floor dead, right? And the hardest thing to do was hold your breath and make it look like, you know, your chest wasn't moving up and down. But what was so bizarre about that was that people were crying in the audience. And I've never had that experience. I mean, well, obviously I didn't have that experience prior to that, but you know, to have that experience afterwards was like really moving. But I mean, in some ways, it's like there's an ironic humor element to it as well.
But that was there were a lot of fun times, just a lot of fun times, and I think you know, as I said, I didn't do many extracurriculars, but I do to this very day remember all of the fun I had participating in one of Schulte's productions. What was it, Carnival? Well, both Bobby and I were in Carnival, and God, that was a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
You know, this should be fun. I had thought about doing it before, and with the sort of momentum of the retreat, I said, oh, the hell with it. I'll go out. And yeah, and, you know, had a fabulous time. So, our town, I played the milkman, Howie Newsom. And I'll never forget going into the audition. I figured I needed something a little different. And it wasn't a big part. You only made a couple of appearances, but you did, in both those appearances, you had a speaking role. And so I came in and I decided to try a New England accent. And it just really, everybody just went, what? You know, I was like, the lady character would be, good morning, Howie. And I go, morning, Miss Gibbs. Nice day if it don't rain, you know, and like that. And then I kind of did the makeup to match an older fellow, crotchety looking guy. And after I did it, everybody was like, well, where did that come from? And I said, I don't know. It just occurred to me. So I did that. And then in Destry Rides Again, it was also, again, a small part, but enough to entitle me to go to cast parties of Claggett. I was an enraged rancher who came in to the bar and wanted to kill Joe Castellano's character and was prevented from doing so by Destry himself, who was Tim Sullivan, not O'Sullivan. And that was an interesting play to be in, because it was a lot of the guys who weren't ordinarily didn't show up in the Dauphin Players things a lot. I think Mr. Warner actually made an effort to kind of recruit some other people. It had a big cast. It needed a dancing and singing chorus, and we needed 3 heavies to play the henchman for Joe's character. And it was a lot of fun to be in. And the bigger the cast, the more fun the cast parties. So it was real good that way.
A quick story about Destry. So there was a dramatic scene where I was the notorious J.C. Kent. I was the bad guy, right? And Tim O'Sullivan was Destry, and he was going to clean up the town with Joe Weisborough was a sheriff, I think, and Kate Nolan, the great Kate Nolan, was Frenchie, who was supposedly my woman that Destry was stealing away from me, and he had given me till midnight to get out of town. So I'm in there having a drink at the bar, and it's midnight, and the clock chimes midnight. I'm supposed to be mad, and I throw my glass at the clock. In dress rehearsals, there's nobody in there, so I threw the little plastic solo cup, you know, so now opening night, it's time. I'm a catcher on the baseball team. Jack thought I probably could hit the clock or come close to it with my glass. I throw the thing, and it goes off cockeyed, and it's a plastic glass, and it goes on the steps and goes bump, 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 bump down, and everybody starts laughing. and I don't know if you remember that, but I think Jack threw his glass against the wall in the back. Well, the next night we fixed it. I got a real glass and I walked up closer to it so I couldn't miss. And I threw it at the clock. I think I destroyed the clock, and we had the dramatic moment. Oh my God. Live theater. It was just such a great experience.
We had, I was in our senior year was the first time St. Louis U High offered a drama class. Joe had been active in extracurricular theater, I think, his entire tenure there. But of course, he was a math teacher. But our senior year, along with all those firsts that we had, it was the first 4-credit drama class that St. Louis U High ever did. And so I was in it. There were, it was a small class. I think there were, only about 10 or 12 of us in it. But Joe taught it and was great.
I think it was Destry Rides Again, and that was just, and again, it was I don't know if I probably had no talent, but it was so fun.
Destry Rides Again. It was also, again, a small part, but enough to entitle me to go to cast parties of Claggett. I was an enraged rancher who came in to the bar and wanted to kill Joe Castellano's character and was prevented from doing so by Destry himself, who was Tim Sullivan, not O'Sullivan. And that was an interesting play to be in, because it was a lot of the guys who weren't ordinarily didn't show up in the Dauphin Players things a lot. I think Mr. Warner actually made an effort to kind of recruit some other people. It had a big cast. It needed a dancing and singing chorus, and we needed 3 heavies to play the henchman for Joe's character. And it was a lot of fun to be in. And the bigger the cast, the more fun the cast parties. So it was real good that way.
At our town, I was the stage manager. We did Fantastics, where I played the father. Trying to think what else. Of course, we did Celebration the year before, which we actually went to the University of Indiana in Bloomington. And did you ever know that? Maybe you didn't know that. Between the summer of our junior and senior year, Joe Schulte took a whole crowd from the Celebration cast and crew, and we actually mounted a full production of Celebration at the University of Indiana. I wonder how many people even know that. It was in the summertime. I want to say it was in June. But what they did was they actually had a regional competition for high schools to actually mount a full production. I mean, and Dave Weiss, my God, that guy was a genius. He found ways to completely deconstruct the set, and with bolts and plywood bases and all that kind of stuff, remount it in record time at some remote location. It was really something. And of course, we had almost an entire truckload of costumes. It was crazy. And we put that whole production together overnight. They allowed us like one rehearsal, and then it went on like the following evening.
I remember Our Town, when we did Our Town that he directed. And I remember it was sometime in the week before the thing opened, and we were going through the whole show, and Joe, stopped and said, "Okay, stop. You guys are horrible up there. There is absolutely no energy on that stage, and we're gonna we're going to do it again from the top, and we're going to keep doing it until I feel some energy coming off of the stage. And so he took a 2x4, you know, about a foot long 2x4, and he stood at the front of the stage and banged the 2x4 almost like a metronome, you know, about every 2 seconds. And bang, 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 and so we had to emote over that.
It's funny because, Wayne, you know, I was just not in with the in crowd. I always felt like a bit of an outsider at St. Louis U High because I was not, this is another question, because I wasn't athletic, you know. I do remember hitchhiking with Joe Cordham during cross-country practice because we were supposed to run around Forest Park, and we were on Skinker Boulevard with our thumbs out. That's what a great runner I was.
I did. I got a letter. Water polo. And I kind of did it because it got me out of going to church every day, because I would swim at Forest Park Community College with the team. And but I had fun. Busenhart was the coach, I believe his name was, and we had a good team. Our team didn't win state, but the seniors above us, the class of 70, did, so it was pretty cool.
Of course, freshman wrestling, which was, and I can admit to losing 6 and winning 1 match. It was fun learning. Wrestling was not fun against people that wanted to beat you. I think I set a record of, you know, maybe 8 seconds getting pinned in my very first match. It was like from some guy from Melville that was a pro, and he just went threw me down on my back, and that was it.
I tried out for several sports teams, but I never got on them because our year, the sports teams were so well done. They won state in almost everything that you basically had to be a professional athlete, kind of athlete, to even get on them. And I think part of it was my personality. I don't think I was kind of aberrant in high school, and I don't think Ebby Dunn wanted me on the soccer team, to be honest.
And when I got to the U High, started my freshman and sophomore years in the basketball team, and I was a forward. And you know, comes junior year, and I'm going out for the varsity, and Coach Hannick says, "Hey, I'm going to switch you. I'm going to have you play guard. I think we need some more, you know, more players playing guard." And you know, I was a little upset, but I was also, you know, very much scared because I'm going, okay, I've never really played guard that much. I mean, it's the same sport, but it's just kind of a different angle. And I go, well, you know, coach says we're doing this. So I just said, well, I may not like it, but let me just kind of work at this. And, you know, I think Furman Percelli and I were we were the 3rd string guards our junior year. We hardly ever played, but we practiced constantly. But then when I came back senior year, and I'll say kind of all that hard work paid off. You know, Hannick made me a starter, and I got to play senior year, made all, you know, honorable mention all city and stuff. And I always remember to go, you know, that was something I really didn't want to do, but I said, hey, let me just work hard at it. And if I work hard, and, you know, usually some things it'll work out. And that lesson really helped me later on in working. I worked 40 years at AT&T, and, you know, the big company, you're going to switch around and do different types of things. And there were many times I was asked to do a job that, you know, it's like, I have no clue how to do this. But I always kind of remember back to say, well, you know, if I work hard enough, you know, if I like working on being a guard, things can pay off. And I kind of had confidence that I could be successful, even though I wasn't familiar with whatever that job was going to be. And it really helped me, because after that, I was never afraid to take on a new job. And I knew that even though I know nothing about this, I have confidence I'm going to be successful, because in the past, I've always been successful doing it.
when I got there, I remember the first experience was I knew I was in love with football from a long time, way back when. And the football practice, a tryout started before school started. So that, so before even classes began, we were on that lower dust field trying out. And I remember Paul Martell very vividly. And he didn't quite know what to make of me. And, again, as a sort of a transplant, I don't know that he was even sort of like expecting that, that I was going to be trying out. And, but I did okay. And I remember him, pulling me out of the pass drill line and asking me a zillion questions about whether I had, had any training or played on any teams or whatnot. And I came from a very rural area, Alabama. So the only teams we had were kids in the neighborhood. And I kept saying, no. He says, okay. And then I went back in the line. So that was my first experience.
Water polo, swimming, and I did track. The 440 was one of my events, and participated in the relays that they had there at school. So, both, so swimming kind of went almost all the way into after the Christmas holidays, and then track started up in the spring. So I was able to participate in sports basically the year round. And again, lots of good friends. Keith was there and friends on the track team. And I was never even inclined because our football team was so huge and big and obviously state champions. So there's no way I was going to play football. And in basketball, as short as I am, that was out. So yeah, swimming and track.
Football speed and track speed aren't the same. And we were talking earlier about Handy, who was just an amazing track athlete, both in the 100 and maybe 220 as well. So I got tired of finishing third or fourth, and I wasn't a distance runner. So, track was, was one I could let go.
Sports was such a big thing at the U High, and I participated in track, but I didn't participate in any other organized sport. So track and field was my thing, but I absolutely loved attending our basketball games and our football games, and it was always, even now when I think back on it, it was amazing that our high school played its homecoming game every year in Busch Stadium. That's an amazing thing, that there's that much interest in the city and this rivalry between, St. Louis U High and Christian Brothers College,
Year of basketball and Castellano and, some Bob Tebow and some guys who weren't that good, but with Kevin Cleary, and Steve Walsh was already on the sophomore team. He was so good. But what it taught me is you have absolutely no future in basketball. So what I did the next year was play football. And then I played soccer for not for every down, excuse me. It was for Mr. Keith. Mr. Keith coached the B team. He had no clue. We had to walk him through things. Terry Moffat and some guys just had to tell him, here's where you play, guys. And then I did that football 4 years, 1 year of basketball, 3 years of soccer. And then I played 3 years of baseball on the B team and then the varsity for Tony Rubich as a varsity. And then I did not play senior year because 2 reasons. One, there was a young kid named Steve Omer, who was a junior below us, and he was hitting home runs like every 4th time he came up to hit. And I said, hey, Steve Omer and I play the same position. I'm not going to get much playing time.
Oh, well, this was fun. I did the intramural basketball. That was a lot of fun. The Lavender Hill Mob was our team. We had a lot of fun with that team. We took it, semi-seriously. and it was a great experience. That was that was fun. Not just the team dynamic with our team, but also the playing the other teams. That was fun. I forget. Yeah, I guess it was 5-on-5. Yeah.
And in fact, I think my time in the 100 was a record was set in my freshman year, and I think that record stood. I don't know if it's been broken yet, but that was, you know, that was quite a big deal for me. But one of the things that I just carry with me, and a memory I really treasure, is we had a track meet scheduled. This was senior year, okay? And we had a track meet scheduled on a Saturday morning. And that Saturday morning, and it was against the school in Alton. I don't remember exactly the school, but that Saturday morning was the Saturday morning after the Friday night that we had our senior prom, okay? And so I attended the prom. I got home at like, oh God, 4 o'clock in the morning, and then had to be up at 6, get in a car, drive to Alton for this track meet, because the track meet was like 7:30 or something like that in the morning, beginning. And I got there having had no sleep at all. And that day, I don't know how I did it, but I set records in 3 events that day. I mean, just crazy. You know, I don't know. I guess I was just performing purely on adrenaline. You know?
That's when our locker rooms were being redone, and we had to dress in the gym. And so I don't know who did it. I don't remember, but somebody put itching powder in Fred's jockstrap. Okay. Well, here we go. We go down. We get into calisthenics, you know, and then you start sweating a little bit and everything. And here's Fred. He walks out of the group. He's on the steps, you know, the 100 steps that you have to take to go up. And Coach Dunn goes, "Fred, where are you going?" "I'm going to take a shower." "Well, Fred, we usually do that after practice." He looked at it, he goes, "Not today." And there he goes, he disappeared. And I think that what the itching powder was brown fiberglass or something like that. And oh, that was so funny. "Not today." I'll always remember that.
Other than Desher rides again, we played water polo. That was probably a funny experience. When in junior year, I think we won the state championship, and everybody graduated, and they didn't have enough guys to play. So Dan Finney asked a bunch of guys that were soccer guys to come out and play water polo. So yeah, what the hell? You know, it was Bill Christman, me, Terry Moffitt. You know, we weren't very good swimmers at all. And Dan goes, "Oh no, we'll just keep the game close. It's a lot like soccer." And we just got our butts kicked every week. I mean, it was just, you know, because we had a big target on our back. But I don't think any of us, it was like, all right, well, it is what it is, you know.
And another great memory was the ecstasy and the agony of senior basketball. Just the intensity of every game, just screaming our lungs out for Benito's and the Marquee and our band of ballers. You know, we just had a great team. It was just so much fun. Obviously, you know, didn't win state, but it was just a blast. And I think especially with everything being contained inside, I just remember the intensity of it. It was fantastic.
There were eventually 3 of us that ended up playing soccer there for 3 or 4 years. And Tommy Zagregan, Frank Gallo were all on the soccer team. I played football. I had never played football. And the first thing I noticed was, damn, some of these guys have been playing in, you know, Pop Warner and all that. And so what the hell am I doing out here? The one thing I would come to know over the next 4 years and be sure of was I would be the smallest player ever to hit the field against all the teams that we went. I think I was 5'8", 140 pounds in those years, and that was like, that's just small compared to most. I do remember the long lance of Father Kellett.
If somebody took you home or your mom picked you up right after school, you missed out on so much of what was St. Louis U High in those days. It was just great. Extracurriculars were, and it could be anything, chess team, like you said, rifle team.
We kind of came out of the Chrome magazine. There was Kevin Polito and Len Tenges, of course, Dan Shaljo. We had a band that formed out of that group, the Captain America Red, White, and Blues Band. Actually played a gig at Rosati Kane for, I think, their one and only appearance. But John Kish was the guitar player of the group, although he wasn't as involved with all the other social things as that was, but certainly well respected for his artistic and guitar ability. I try to think it, and then there were some who just tangentially would show up and things. We'd all spend afternoon rec period sitting around the same place outdoors when you could. The senior smoker was big. They had a piano, and Len was a very good piano player and a very good musician on a lot of instruments. I think he played French horn in the SLU band. So, but those were the main movers and shakers,
If you remember in that movie, we were playing some sort of rebels taking over the school, right? We used a cigarette, but we act like we're smoking a joint, and I'm shocked that I didn't object to that. So making that Follies movie was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I really did. And those are some of just the fun things. And making the movie that I did was a lot of fun. It really was.
One other thing I did, I was on the chess team senior year for one, but I only played one match. And I don't know why, maybe because soccer interfered with it or something, but I played against Schweitzer a few times. John, I think, beat me most of the time. I may have beat him once. There was a guy a year younger than us named Curran. Big heavyset guy. He was real good. He beat me. He was on the first board. He and Schweitzer were on the first board. They put me on the fifth board because it was the first time I did it. And they have a rule that if you touch the piece, you have to move that piece. And they had a time limit. And I was a senior, and I'm playing against this kid who's a freshman at Augustinian, who looked like he was about 10. And not that I was shaving or anything. I think my senior year, I may have shaved once a week, but, I was demonstrably older. And I said, do you want to play this stupid touch rule? Oh, the rules are the rules. Well, the poor kid, he touched the wrong piece one time, and I beat him twice in 30 minutes. And
I did do tutor work with Paul Sheridan's initial group that led to the Loyola Academy concept. That was my senior year. And that was pretty good. There was 8 guys, I think. And I think 4 of them ended up going to the school. 4 or 5 of them did. So that was pretty good.
Extracurriculars.
Yeah.
Do you remember, and I don't know if this is termed an extracurricular, the walk for development? Did you walk the whole way? Didn't even make it to school the next day. I couldn't get out of bed. My recollection is that they miscalculated the mileage, which was supposed to be 25 miles, which why in the world we wouldn't think 25, we're going to walk 25 miles? It was ended up being, I think, 30 miles, if I'm not mistaken. And I can remember that last stretch going down Oakland, because we started the U High and finished there, it was torturous. I just stopped every 10 feet to try to relax. It was just crazy stuff.
Curricular I participated in was band. I was in the band for 2 years, and then Mr. Polizzi and I parted ways But I did go out for football and baseball and was cut from both of those. At the end, I made it to the blue-white game of the football tryouts, and then Mr. Vitale cut me, and Mr. Harder was the baseball coach, and he told me I got cut because he had to make room for another player who was dropping down from the varsity team to the B team. So that ended that. I did try out for cross country. First practice, I got lost in Forest Park, and they didn't need to cut me. I cut myself after that. So that was about it for athletics at the U High.
I went to activities, but I wasn't too involved in extracurricular activities. Freshman year, I was in the Bellarmine Club, the speech club. I did debate. And to tell you how long ago that was, the debate topic that year, because you just have one topic for the whole year, or at least that's what we did back then. The topic was built around the Miranda rights. They were just coming into play. So we argued for and against the Miranda rights. That's how long ago that is. Okay. They weren't already in the cop shows. It wasn't standard procedure. You know, nowadays people can recite them, you know, just off the top of their heads. Back then, nobody knew what they were. So
The thing I was most involved in and best at was wrestling. I was 4 years on the wrestling team. I did cross country 1 year. I was mediocre at best at that. I did track for 3 years. I was mediocre at that. And I also I worked on the prep news for a year in my senior year.
But the other thing, an extracurricular that really influenced me was the Upward Bound program. Do you recall that? They had tutoring on weekdays, but I did Saturday mornings, and I loved it. Absolutely loved the tutoring, to the point that in my adult life, you know, I was a big brother twice. I volunteered for the YMCA literacy program, the St. Louis County Juvenile program, and a place called the College for Living, where I met my wife, where we taught independent living skills to challenged adults, physically and mentally challenged adults, which was great. I did that for 10 years. But doing that Upward Bound really got me interested in doing that kind of stuff. And I did it most of my adult life, loved it.
So when I really want to blow the minds of my liberal academic friends, I tell them, oh, or when we have those liars games, even better, where they say, tell me 2 things that are true about you and 1 thing that's not true, okay? One of the true things I tell them is that I tell them I'm a distinguished expert of the National Rifle Association. And they always pick that as the false thing that I am, when in fact it's true. Under Father Hagen's tutelage, I am a distinguished expert of the National Rifle Association. And I'll go to my grave with that credential, I guess, because it doesn't expire. Can you imagine what it would be like if you tried to have a high school that had an actual ballistic rifle team? I mean, maybe military schools can have it. I don't know, but that's another paradox, or you know, something from 50 years ago that, you know, everybody kind of, well, of course they do, and now they all go, eek.
Schweitzer was the head of the prep news when I was on there, and he was really the one who charted the course. And you know, John is such a smart guy. It was a pleasure to work with him.